Hello, hello. I am so excited because I have today one of my lovely clients, Miss Jessica, and she's here to share her story and the aha moments and how coaching has impacted her. She has an amazing recovery story, and we are here to share that with you. Plus, she's launching a new business, so we're going to get to hear about that. So, welcome, Jessica. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, what your life looked like before working together?
Yeah, thanks, Jeannie. It's really so lovely to be here with you today. Sitting here talking to you about this feels like very full circle for me, and I just have so much gratitude for the work that we did together. I know we've already done one interview together on the TMS roundtable, and so to get to talk today more about what the coaching experience was like between us and just the opportunity to share a small bit of my journey, I just feel much gratitude. So I think my story is very similar to many of us who have found ourselves living with chronic pain or chronic symptoms of any kind and ultimately really end up finding this work. But before coaching, my life from the outside looked very full and probably very successful in all the traditional ways. You know, as a busy wife and mom, well, I still am, of two elementary school age children. I was working as a registered dietitian in a really busy functional medicine practice. Like I felt like that was my life calling was, root cause medicine. I was very socially active. I was the yes girl and had a very full social calendar. I traveled frequently. I was in a busy graduate program and I was exhausted. Internally, I think I was very much living as just this high achieving, people pleasing perfectionist. That's just who I was. I functioned at this really high level, and underneath that was a long history of stress in my system, including a childhood that had had its own layers of difficulty. And I think over time, that just really shaped how I moved through this world. And my body and system had really always reflected that. When I look back, I had a very long history of physical symptoms, GI issues as a young child. I had severe seasonal allergies. I was always sick in elementary school. And that really transitioned into anxiety and years of disordered eating. And it just, carried into the 20s when I was kind of launched into the world as an adult. And I would go to the ER with chest pain, thinking I was having a heart attack. And they're like, oh, it's a panic attack. And colonoscopies in my 20s for, quote unquote, IBS. So I was just living in the system, sensitive system overall, but I could always really push through. I always kind of white knuckled it back up, right? That was just how it was. And then the really final tipping point for me where I wasn't able to write myself back up was COVID. And all of my normal, coping mechanisms just stopped working. And so over this 2-year period following COVID, I developed neurological symptoms. I, started getting sensation and pain in the right side of my face and head, the right side of my body. I started getting weakness and pain. And over that 2-year period was diagnosed with Lyme disease and autoimmunity to various parts of my brain and, abnormal MRI and mold, all the things, mold toxicity. And I really did think that was developing early neurodegenerative disease like multiple sclerosis or Parkinson's. So it was a really scary, fearful time.
Very, yeah.
And then eventually that led to what felt like overnight. Looking back, it's not, but it was developing, a severe chronic nerve pain condition called trigeminal neuralgia. And my life came to really kind of a complete halt. And so I really went from functioning at a very high level to literally not functioning at all. I was in 24/7 chronic pain. I think I've shared this in my story on other platforms, but I actually had a medical provider say to me that this diagnosis was also nicknamed the suicide disease. I
Mhm.
wasn't sleeping more than 2 hour stretches. I was just living in complete terror that this would be like a lifelong condition. And that ultimately is what catapulted me into this trying to heal. And at that point, I had really worked in functional medicine for a long time. I had been witness to so much healing. I really believed that healing was always possible because I had been witness to that firsthand. But what I had never seen anyone heal from was a neuropathic condition like this. And in fact, what I had seen was the opposite. I had had family members, family member with CRPS. I had known someone else that had had neuralgia. And so it felt like a very grim diagnosis to me. And um, I didn't see a path out. And so, in the process of trying to find some kind of healing and how really ultimately found this work and then found you, was I had heard about a clinic in the Midwest that specialized in neuropathic conditions. They
Mm.
were very successful with like CRPS. And so I ended up moving my family from California, where we live, more than halfway across the United States to live there for, 3 to 4 months to try to heal. And ultimately, it wasn't what healed me because I had to do that.
Mhm.
But while I was there for about 2 months before I came home. I learned about pain reprocessing therapy. And I had stumbled upon Curable, the app, like in the middle of the night, because at this point, I wasn't sleeping. And so that really was kind of like the entry point into this work. I wasn't quite ready to receive it just yet. I really still thought there was other
Of
like root
course.
cause reasons that,
Um,
I was living with this pain, but it introduced me and then that opened the door and ultimately I found Alan Gordon's book The Way Out and that was really a critical turning point for me. It really felt like my personal story. It still does. I've read that book probably 3 times. I highly recommend it to everyone that I work with, but I saw my story in those pages. Like I had the personality traits, I had the pain experience with my pain moving and not making sense. And I listened to the book all in one day. And that really was when I started to see the actual way out. No pun
yeah, such a
intended,
great
right?
title. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I knew that was the path out for me. I didn't know how long it was going to take, but I knew that from that point on, I was going to stop talking about the pain. I remember, standing in my kitchen, having this moment where it was about starting to re-engage with my life because at that point, I carried so much shame around what was happening to me. I mean, the number of times, I worked in wellness. I was supposed to be like this pillar of health. And the number of times someone had said to me, but you're the healthiest person I know. Like,
Mhm.
how could this happen to you? And so I really had isolated myself tremendously from life, from friends, from engaging. And so I knew that I had to re-engage with life. And so it really was a scary time. It felt like I was like on Bambi legs because my life had been so full and the constructs of my life had been a certain way and all of that was gone. And now I really had to kind of rebuild. And so I remember kind of sitting down and just like sketching out like the framework or like a scaffolding of like what would life look like if I was living as if I was fully healed? What would I be doing? Right. And so I really set out to create that for myself, and that looked like these different inputs, movement, time in nature, time with friends, really beginning to nourish myself with food in a loving way. And I started doing that even though I was still living with tremendous 24/7 pain. And so, in the process of that, is really, what led me to you because I realized that I didn't want to do this alone and that it felt like uncharted territory for me. And then, of course, I found you who had journeyed it already. And ultimately, that's what led me to you. So, that's the very condensed version of
That's
like how
great.
we came to be.
Yeah, and we have an extended version, like Jessica mentioned. We did a live on TMS Roundtable with Tova. So I'll have that linked here, and it's also on my website. So I know you were in therapy when you decided to hire me. And why did you want to add that to your support team? And what would you hoping you would gain, or what do you feel like was missing maybe with typical therapy?
Yeah. Yeah, I have an amazing therapist who specializes in TMS, but I also was very familiar with the role of a coach. I had worked alongside health coaches in the functional medicine space for years. So, I knew what their role was in really kind of journeying alongside someone. And it really was more about like, how do I actually navigate what's happening to me right now? It was real time relational support of having someone walk alongside me and say, I see you, you're okay. Let's look at this differently. How can we reframe this? Or just, this is really hard right now. Like, yes, how
Yeah.
can you support yourself through this? And, for me, the, I had really big flares until the very end. So this was a longer process of healing. It was a 2-year period. And it really did feel like, my brain didn't want to let go of this pain. And so, when I would have a big flare, because, the thing is, you're making progress, you're rocking along and you're getting excited because things are shifting for you in a lot of different ways. And then out of the blue, I would just get a massive flare. And it would almost like knock me to my knees in some time, some cases. And so, it's those moments where I could reach out to you, and within a very short period of time, I mean, sometimes within an hour, you're talking me through it. And, it's about having this like container and someone's holding you and reflecting back to you, and someone who's really journeyed through it.
Mhm.
And that in itself really dials the intensity and the fear down. And I know for sure I moved through those flares so much
Mhm.
faster. They didn't get sticky, like I call it with me.
Yeah. Yeah, we can really focus on maybe some thoughts that are kicking up the fear. I just had a client a few days ago. She was reflecting something. She didn't realize that what she was doing was putting pressure and fear until I reflected it back. And it's like, oh, well, that pressure and fear is going to keep me in this spiral or something. But yeah, it's really
Yeah,
common. And I think too, I mean, wouldn't you agree, Jessica? Like this is can be such a lonely journey. Our family and friends who love us and want the best don't know what to say or can't.
right.
I've heard people tell their partners, "Well, just be positive." I will never say that, but you can, choose to have thoughts that are true, that are based on neuroscience, right? Or
Right.
just the best next thought, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yes.
yeah, and I think, yeah, again, instead of like, you're doing great, right? If you watch a podcast or something general, but to have someone say, okay, based on the tools you and I have or the work we've done, remember
Mhm.
this. It's like, oh, yeah, of course we don't remember everything that happens in coaching. It's like this, oh, yeah, I just forgot to integrate this right now. So,
You frequently did that, and it really
mhm.
was more. It isn't about being positive. You are saying this is really hard right now. I know it's hard, and what can we do differently? Or let's not catastrophize about it. Let's just name the truth of this right now. And what are the things you can do to help yourself move through it, right? So if it's really intense, it was more about what are the things you can soothe yourself with right now. And you would even remember the
Mm.
list of things that I have talked about that are very soothing to me. Because sometimes when things get really intense, you almost sometimes go offline and you kind of forget it all. And so you're really honing it back in. But truly, sometimes, Jeannie, it's just even hearing your voice.
Oh, yeah.
Because but we get to a point where we know a lot of the tools, and it's just being reminded to practice them and being reflected back to, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And
yeah.
sometimes we forget that it's okay just to be in the emotions and we don't have to do all the mindset work. And I'm having all these thoughts. It's like, okay, love, get out of that, right? Go
Yeah.
feel that sadness. Go feel the anger. No decisions need to be made. Permission
Yeah.
to feel sad or angry. And that can just be such a huge relief because we're, oh my gosh, I have to be, have to be thinking about this in a certain way. And so I think it's, yeah, a lot of permission too.
Yeah.
So I know we have a lot of little stories and anecdotes, but was there something that maybe doesn't have to do? I think one of my like secret special sauces I've been told is that yes, I'm a TMS mind body coach, but my background, I'm a life coach, right? And we're looking at your whole life. We're looking
Right.
at relationships, money, family, friends, like everything in our life. So it was sometimes we'll spend times on things that are not quote TMS, but it's part of stress. It's the stress, it's the people pleasing, it's a
Right.
situation with our neighbors or one or two examples you can show that really shifted with the stress or how you look at
Yeah.
things with the personality types?
Yeah, I think, well, what stands out most was really how supported I felt. I think the thing is, there's so many like programs and protocols popping up, but really life is your program. Life shows you where, you have maybe bypassed yourself or you're feeling like really activated about something. And so it really wasn't, and I know a lot of us say this, and I remember hearing this, and you're like, what? At some point, it's really no longer about the pain. It's really about how can I respond differently to whatever it is I'm experiencing, like in real time. And so when you're having weekly sessions, especially in the beginning with you, because you and I ended up working together for quite a while. We were together for like a year and a half in different frequencies, but it's knowing that anytime I'm experiencing something that feels really big or negative or however we want to name it, you were available to provide support and to help. Again, what are the tools we have? How can we reframe this? And how can we, it's not even about the things that are challenging, it was also about the things that are going really well. You really wanted me to share out loud what the wins were. You wanted my brain hearing me say to you, like, hey, I just moved through this in a very different way. And sometimes it's subtle things, but it's our brain likes to focus on the negative. And so we're really wanting to focus on the positive. And so it helped. It was a touch point of safety, and it started to create the sense of safety in my system. And, we've talked about one of the big reframes you helped me with that has stayed with me and has been so transformational and was small was that early in my healing work on this journey, one of the things I really seemed to be fixated on was like the state of my house. Like, could I keep my house like and clean and organized? And I just had this vision of what I thought it would be. It was what my brain was focusing on at the time. And it would really bring me stress when it was, and I wasn't able to do that. And you reframe that and you just said, okay, well, what if instead of this being like a messy house, what if this is just a reflection of a really well lived,
Yeah.
loved family life? And that, I'm 3 years out now from the beginning of all of this, and that really has stayed with me. So when we come home at the end of a long weekend day and the house is like completely wrecked, it doesn't bother me anymore because I have reframed it in that way. Wow, we've had a lot of fun today together as a family. So, it's
Yeah.
always little things in real time.
Yeah, and I say this, I think this is interesting. So obviously I'm a mind body coach and a stress coach. So I can help you, okay, you're feeling stressed out about the house. So let's feel that, right? And let's
Yeah.
use some tools. But I think also what's genius is let's reframe the mind so you don't
Yeah.
have all this pressure and stress to begin
Yeah.
with. So if you can change the thoughts, because the thoughts create how we feel. So if we're having thoughts, and this is so common, Jessica, the only reason I'm good at this is because I work with a lot of busy moms who the state of the house and but the internal dialogue isn't, oh, there's Legos on the floor. Remember you told me that the Legos, it's that
Yeah.
I'm a bad mom or I'm a bad wife, or the state of my house sometimes is related and tied to my worthiness, right? So when we can just look at it, yep, house is messy, or
Yeah.
the house is lived in, and we can actually reduce the stress and pressure, because the whole idea with mind body healing is to bring safety to the brain. So when there's pressure of being perfect and what the house looks like, and of course we're at other people's houses and we compare, that's just what the brain does. But a
Yeah.
huge part of this work is, yes, feeling the feelings and the stress and anxiety, but also let's cut out the unnecessary suffering, right? And that's
Yeah.
also needed for business when we get to that part too. So I
Yeah.
think that's magic. So here's a fun question I like to ask. Um, what surprised you about coaching or working with me? Is there anything that maybe the viewers are like, oh, I never thought of that?
No, I think, my work and my healing has really, it's so relational. Like it's around my relationships, it's how I relate to the world. It's about bringing meaning to what I'm experiencing. And so it didn't surprise me because I felt this from the very beginning with you, but it really was about how relational you were with me. Like that relational piece was really important. And so it really wasn't, it wasn't about necessarily, we talked a lot about tools. You have a lot that I have incorporated and like a whole notebook's worth. That was amazing. I can go back to any time. But it really, for me, was about having someone reflect back a different perspective when I couldn't see for myself. And it, again, it's really not about the pain. Yes, it is about the pain, but it becomes much bigger than that. It becomes more about how we're doing life. And, that's hard. Adulting is hard, especially when you wake up to how you've been living and how you've been relating, for most of your life.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, this work is ongoing, but it's mind body coaching, which we all
Yeah.
need. I mean, even EAET, which is the therapy from Howard Schubiner, and it's designed or it was created for the TMS community or chronic pain, but he even says in the training, this is what everyone needs because everyone has anger. It's a
Yeah.
tool for anger. So
Yeah.
mind body life coaching, I'd say 85% of what we've done is life coaching and mind body
Yes.
coaching in general, because you're always going to have emotions. We're always going to have issues and problems. So it's things that you can take with you. So yeah, so we were working together for, yeah, what you said, like a year and a half. And so are there, now that you're on the other side, and we want to talk about that too, but what
Yeah.
I guess I want to show that this is ongoing tools that you can use in
Yeah.
your day-to-day life. So what would be an example of, okay, I'm not coaching with
Yeah.
you regularly, but I'm still doing XYZ.
Yeah.
Is there anything that stands out
For
of
sure.
I still do this or I still think about this?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the biggest things that we, uncovered when working together is, well, again, so much of this work is developing an awareness about your thoughts and like what your mind is saying all day long, which you really have no control over. And so we early on named this part of my brain Rose, right? So Rose was the one that is like the automatic thought, whatever it is, the catastrophizing, the assigning meaning that isn't necessarily true, whatever it is. It's like that first thought you can't control. And we named her Rose. And so it gave me this really compassionate way to interact with this part of myself that wasn't always true and wanted to believe in worst case scenario and wanted to overreact to all the things. And that stayed with me. I still talk to Rose. She still
Oh,
comes up.
yeah.
I have a really compassionate relationship with her. But that's probably something that will stay with me. And the beautiful part about this work too, Jeannie, is that when you start relating to yourself differently and you gain this awareness, like you kind of really awaken to all of this, it impacts everyone around you. Like this has had a deep impact on my family, on my relationship, my marriage, the way that my children and I interact with each other. And I'm teaching them these same tools. My son is 9 and he's very much like me. He feels things deeply, he feels things in his body, and things get sticky for him, even physical symptoms. And so just the other day, we were talking about something he's feeling in his body. And I said, sometimes symptoms can get a little sticky. And he's like, oh, like honey? And I was
Yeah.
like, right. And, we had this conversation around how if we fear it or we're scared of what our body's communicating, it gets stickier. And so, really moving through and understanding, oh, my body's just communicating like this to me today. And it was like a light bulb for him. He understood it. He got up, he went on, and he played. And so, so much of this work, yes, is tools we carry, and that rose piece will probably be something I have forever. But it also has such a big impact on those around us, and that I'm so
You.
grateful for.
Yeah, family, friends, but then
Yeah,
business too. We're going to talk about that. But
yeah,
you're, if you're an entrepreneur or doing big things or making a career change,
yeah,
and you don't
yeah,
understand how the thoughts are impacting you and your ego is trying to keep you safe, it will be so much more difficult. But I think in relationships, we talk a lot about in my program about getting your needs met.
yeah.
Most women, I would say 99%, me included, like I had no
Amen.
idea what I needed. And then with my partner, it's expecting him to know my needs. I don't
Right.
even know them. So it's going to help your romantic partnerships, but even
Yeah.
parents, right? If I need
Yes.
to be alone, I'm at my parents' house, I
Mhm.
let them know I need to recharge or, boundaries with clients or whatever it is. I mean, I love helping people, Jessica, when they start to get better. And
I
then and then
know.
they're going into the dating world and I'm like,
I
"Oh, I can
know.
You can do this TMS work, then you can do dating. Because think of all the ego thoughts, Jessica. Think about a rose with dating, right? I'm not good enough. I'm not thin enough. I'm too old. I'm
Yeah.
too young, which I went through too. But it's not like we have to start. Okay, now we're going to talk about dating. Let's start. It's, oh, everything that we've learned
Yeah.
just change a little bit of the topic. So that's why it goes
Yes.
into business and
Yeah.
relationships. And when real life situations come up, we know how to approach it, right? It's feeling the
Yeah.
emotions, it's the thoughts. So here's another great question. What's a
Yeah.
change that you noticed that maybe others didn't immediately see, but has had a big impact on your
Well,
life?
I think, well, I've had a huge reduction in fear. I really feel like rehomed in my body. That's the best way that I can describe it. It's kind of like a deep inner anchoring so that when things start to get stirred up emotionally or physically, I have space from it. And even if like that first reaction, we can't control that, but I still have the pause with it. And that's very noticeable for sure within my family, even. And I just have much less fear about whatever's coming up. I think my mantra has really become right now it's like this, right? Right now it's like this, but I know it's going to shift. And so I think most people, would say that I just seem much calmer. I have a peacefulness about me no matter what's coming my way because I have that spaciousness from
Yeah.
like that we usually would have when you don't have that anchoring or you feel like you're just riding the roller coaster of life. The truth is that we actually do have a lot more agency with how we're going to respond to whatever it is. And to be quite honest, when you've lived through something like this, you become much less shakable about, around everyday stressors. You're like, this is nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a mind body confidence. It's
Yeah,
trusting yourself, right? Like
yeah,
no other. So that's why people can I work with a lot of people who transition and then we'll do business coaching after, right? Because now it's, oh, I have the confidence, I have the agency, I have the power. I can
yeah,
be much more intentional with, and I know we talked about that, we'll get into
yeah,
this, about being intentional how I create this business so I don't burn out.
yeah.
That's what I had to do too. I burned out as a teacher. So how do I create a lifestyle that's fulfilling and nourishing and right gets all my needs met and having the time. So what advice or a couple pieces of advice would you give for someone who's maybe considering working with a coach or maybe even considering working with me? Is there a small reframe or step or piece nugget of wisdom you could give them?
Yeah. I'm such a huge advocate of finding support on this healing journey. And I think I've said this in every interview I've done, but we are not meant to heal in isolation. We are not like human biologically hardwired for it. We really are wired to co-regulate with others and to have support when we're going through something like a healing crisis. And I think the other piece is that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves when we're making a decision to say work with a coach or work with someone. And even in my work, people will say, well, can you guarantee I'm going to heal in 4 months? And it's less about, you know, are you going to heal in 4 months or 3 months or whatever it is? And it's really more for me, and because healing does happen, and I had tremendous healing in the time that I worked with you. And again, I ended up working with you longer, but it's really more about will I learn a framework that's going to give me this lifelong path forward toward healing? Because, we could call it healing, we could call it unfolding, but it really is lifelong. Like it gets deeper. You have more things that are coming up that you're handling differently as life goes on. But you learn this framework in which to do that. So I think you have to just have faith and belief in yourself and not go into it with these hard, like holding on tight to expectations around what that should look like.
Yeah, and what about this thought? I know you hear this a lot. Well, I'm the one who's not going to heal, or I'm the
Hmm.
one who can't heal.
Yeah.
And again, the first thing I would say is that that's your ego trying to keep you safe and
Yeah.
it's protection because when you do this work, and with a mind
Yeah.
body coach or me, feelings and emotions are going to be part of it, right?
Yeah.
anxiety feeling that, right? Actually, and it's kind of like putting a lens to your life and like it can be confronting, right? Because if you're people pleasing all day,
Yeah.
perfectionistic all day,
Sure.
it's going to feel really uncomfortable to work on these things, right? Like having to
Really
say
uncomfortable.
no, right? Or having to have an uncomfortable conversation. So I think maybe the first thing I'll kind of answer this too is that I think, yeah, your ego's doing its job,
Hmm.
your subconscious to protect you from doing the deeper work because that's
Yeah.
what TMS is to protect you. But I always say, it's neuroscience that there isn't, one brain or one body that, can't heal. And like in my world, it's always figure outable. So find someone that you resonate with, that you
Yes.
believe can help you. It's much less like Jessica says about this is what I hate, the perfect fit, the perfect time. There isn't. Find someone that you feel comfortable with. If it's me or someone else, that's going to be the best for you, I
Yeah,
think.
and it's okay to be skeptical. You don't have to be, it's okay to come into this work a little skeptical as long as you're staying open. There's a bit of openness with it. And, I'll just share there was very few people. I think I'd only found one or two recovery stories that were remotely similar to mine. There are not a lot of trigeminal neuralgia recovery stories. It's why I feel called to sharing mine. And even when you're in it, like even when I was in it and I'm healing, and it's very obvious on paper if I would write down what I was experiencing in terms of healing, it's still hard to believe sometimes that it's TMS. And then I would start getting better, and all of a sudden, I would have these other really intense symptoms. I had the classic symptom imperative. I'd wake up with hands, feet, mouth burning. And even when you're having the symptom imperative and you're like, oh, I've heard this before, I've heard this, you still have a hard time sometimes believing it. So I
Sure.
think, um, you know, it's normal. I think you have to normalize a little bit of this, like, will this work for me? And trust that even if whatever it is you're hoping to gain, that when you're going into it, you're going to leave with something that is powerful for you. You really will. And sometimes too, um, you'll be surprised what you come out with. It's okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes the path that feels the most different is actually the one that like creates the biggest outcome, the biggest shift rather. It's called that.
Yeah, and it could just be a really strong, strong, strong neural pathway. This neural pathway of I'm not going to heal or I'm the only one. That's a really strong neural pathway. But because of neuroplasticity, and I can help you with that because that's what I do, we can rewire that thought so it's not as sticky, it's not as reactive, we don't fuse with it. And then little over time, let's say that thought pops up 10 times a day. All of a sudden it pops up 7 times a day, and then it pops up 2 times a day. And then you don't
Yeah.
even have the thought. And then when you have the thought, you don't even care because you're able to separate it.
Yes.
Like Jessica said, one way is separating with the name of the ego, but there's many ways. So it's not just about separating from our thoughts. I was just going to say with Alan Gordon's book, which we love, it's a lot about the neural pathways, but I think something that I really compliment to that is that I teach you how, right? It's like, okay, outcome
Yes.
independence. Well, how?
Yeah. Right. In
Or
real time.
yeah,
That's the thing with coaching
yeah,
is it's real time, real life support. Like these books and various things can give you the framework for it. I knew it was a path out for me. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know how it was going to happen. And so with coaching, it's real time support. It's like having someone in your back pocket who's walked the journey before, who has a lot of experience with working a lot of different people and is helping you as you're journeying through whatever it is, that's coming up for you.
yeah, I think there's a lot there. It's about, and that's one of the things, being able to reach out to somebody where
Yes.
it just brings, like you said, so much safety. You don't have to figure this out. And I've
Yeah.
worked, like you said, I've worked with people all around the world. I've had so many symptoms. I've worked with so many that, and because we have a great relationship and it's been ongoing, I can already know what's going to help you best. And you're not going to if we're doing this alone, we'll listen to 10 podcasts and we'll try to figure this out. And then we just get more and more
Yeah.
overwhelmed. So
You
when
get
someone can,
overwhelmed.
yeah, share light on that one little piece. And I think the way I do it with like lots of framework for things. So it's not just feel your anger. It's like, okay, here's 5 steps. Here's the framework. We're going to write them down.
Yeah.
And this is how you do it. And it's always building blocks, right? I just start where
Yeah.
you're at. If someone's terrified of emotions, they have no idea, then we start really slow. And that's
Yeah.
what's great. You just start wherever you're at.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And you really don't, we don't talk about symptoms.
Yeah.
Like
Isn't that
we
interesting?
virtually could even, I don't want to say you do care about what we're experiencing or what I'm experiencing physically, but we're not talking about it. That is not part of the conversation we're having, right? It's really about, okay, what are we going to do now that you're
Mhm.
experiencing this? And, for me, it was really, really important that I kind of built a team of support around me because this was an intense healing time for me.
Mhm.
And it was very important that the people on my team, whether it's family, friends, my coach, fully believed in my ability to heal.
Yeah.
And you 100, I remember asking you, do you believe that I could heal? And you were like 150%. And that was the only people I wanted on my team. Even if I didn't have the perfect recovery story that mirrored mine, I knew you believed in me. I knew you lived it. I knew you'd worked with many, many people. That's all I wanted to hear. And then it really was about quieting the noise outside of that. I listened to lots and lots of recovery stories. They were really important to my belief work. And I would save a couple if I needed a little bit of, it was going moving through something hard and I needed to re-listen. Outside of that, though, it was about re-engaging with my life, rebuilding my life, living like I was fully healed, and
Mhm.
having people speaking into me that fully believed in me. And
Yeah.
you did,
Oh, thank you.
wholeheartedly.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think too, we addressed maybe a little limiting belief about how long it was going to take, right? I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it will take a
Yeah.
long time, maybe it won't.
Yeah.
But believing it's going to take a long time. I remember you had an aha with
You're
that.
really good with that.
It was like,
Yeah.
well, maybe it won't take a long time, right? We can, based on my past and based on my trauma and based on this, we can assume things. But I've worked with people with lots and lots of trauma,
Yeah.
and it doesn't take a long time. And some
Yeah.
people it does. And
Yeah.
it's
You were good about
whatever's,
that.
yeah. And I know that shift too, because our beliefs are, and you know this, like our beliefs are so powerful. So if we have this belief, it's going to take me a long time based on my past.
Yeah.
So just shifting like tons of little ahas and
Yeah.
shifts. I love seeing those.
In
And that
every
shifted
aspect of
first for you.
life,
Yeah.
like you're even, whatever it is, you would challenge the thought pattern around, oh, this is going to take a while. And you're like, says who? I need to be like, oh, wait, I feel like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Maybe she's right.
Yeah.
And so it really is about, so much of it is about, yeah, like becoming very aware of what your beliefs are, reframing them.
Yeah.
And, again, it's like, oh, that's not a helpful thought. Like moving on. No, not today, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
And like you said,
And
we
it,
can't control them, but we get to choose how we
yeah,
react and we respond, which is all
yeah.
TMS work is. It's the same with our body. You can't control what's bothering you, but you get to choose how to respond.
Yeah, and what I would add to that too is that healing can happen, even if has felt slow for a while. And I think so much of this work is trusting that even if you're not necessarily feeling it in real time, behind the scenes, shifts are happening. Because for me, I flared until the very end, big, big flares, and then the pain just went. And it was like very quickly, it went slow and then it went quick. And
Mhm.
so I think, that's part of just kind of trusting the process and the unfolding of this work because the work will impact your life in such a beautiful, greater way. It really will if
Yeah.
you trust it.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask you another quick question about like therapy versus coaching, because I know a lot of people aren't that familiar. So I know you talked about like the relational piece with coaching, but did you find that therapy, obviously, were for you was a lot about the past and processing and trauma? Was
Mhm.
that your experience? And then coaching is
Mhm.
much more forward focused. Like who would be a good candidate for coaching? Who do you
Yeah.
think maybe, I mean, I know people can do it together, but if they're, who do I hire, a coach or a therapist? What would you say are besides the relational piece?
Yeah, I think therapy was helpful in processing the deeper layers of my story. I've shared my story on other platforms, so I had some unpacking to do for myself that I felt called to unpack.
Mhm.
Coaching really helped me in everyday life. Like coaching helped me apply that in everyday life. So instead of just understanding what my patterns were, I was actually changing how I responded to them in real time. And so for you, that's what coaching does. It's a different container and and like I said, it was really more about like you literally like if you're thinking about sports, you have like a coach next to you in
Yeah.
real time. You know, therapy is very like you see your therapist. It can be amazing, but you're seeing them, maybe once or twice a month. That's not what the coaching relationship is.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I think that's helpful because, and I also know people have come to me who've maybe had not great experience with past coaches. And I know,
Yeah,
again, if you're in the TMS world, that's the hardest thing, I think, is deciding you're in this world, right?
yeah,
Deciding you're not going to go down anymore. Maybe you need to do a little bit, but you're not going to
yeah,
give your power away to the doctors anymore. So once you're in
yeah.
the TMS world, it's much less about who and when. It's just find someone you feel comfortable with,
That you
find
resonate with.
someone, yeah,
Yes.
that you resonate, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I do too. And I always like to say, I am the product of good coaching. I had mind
Yeah.
body coaching, I had TMS coaching, I had life coaching, I had business coaching. So,
All for it. I really am. I think that it is one of the most foundational things that you could do is to have a coach walking alongside with you, truly. Because it is, it really is about who you resonate with. And it's about, I had interviewed some other coaches before I came to you. And, I had some say, well, I'm not sure, but, I'm not sure if you can fully heal from this,
oh wow,
but,
I don't remember you telling me that.
or
Okay.
they
Wow.
said, yeah, I think you can heal from this. I think, and there, if there was even a smidge of doubt,
Mm.
they didn't resonate with me. It's okay. They're doing amazing work.
Yeah.
I wanted someone who fully believed in me and my ability to heal, and that was it. So
Love
you
it.
do that.
Love
You
it.
wholeheartedly believe in everybody's
Yeah.
innate capacity to heal. And sometimes we kind of just need to get out of our own way a little bit. It's really not about doing more, it's kind of about doing less, to be quite honest. And so that's what you're here to do.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I think we just waste a lot less time too, because when we get on a call with each other, we've already checked in by text, we're messaging throughout the
Yeah.
week. So we really just take advantage of our time that we do spend together. And
Yes.
it's always, yeah, what's coming up with life and kind of those things. So just a couple last questions. Is there anything else that I haven't mentioned or I forgot about your journey? Anything about your recovery or the aha moments that you wanted to share,
Yeah.
give hope?
Um,
When people DM you, I know people will reach
yes,
out. What's like,
definitely.
and I want
Yeah.
to share too. Let me just add this because you said
Yeah.
something I forgot to respond to. I didn't have anyone also who had my story, my recovery. My biggest and first and most difficult symptom was ankle pain. Who is talking about their chronic ankle pain on both sides? The other thing that's interesting, I never did any spoke your journal
Mm,
speaking, and I never listened to recovery stories, and I was never in any of these Facebook groups. So anything that you think that you can or can't do or have to, you don't, because we're
yeah.
examples of you get to create your own path. So
Yeah.
just wanted to add that.
Yeah. Yeah, I do have people reaching out, and a lot of times people are like, I just want to do exactly what you did.
Yeah, let's tell them there isn't.
I know. I wish there was. Like, believe me, I wanted I'm a good student.
Me
I
too.
would check those boxes off. And really, it's about having the courage to show up for yourself and do the work. If I could go back in time and talk to the version of me like that was back in the beginning, it would be that like this is, one of my mantras is like on Finding Dory where she says just keep swimming. I would just say just keep
Yeah.
swimming every day. Don't think about tomorrow, don't think about next week, just think about today. But if you're willing to do this work, which I know you would challenge me by saying it's hard, but it is hard work when you're really willing to look at how you've been showing up as the people pleaser and the perfectionist. It's really uncomfortable when you stop doing that. It's
Mhm.
disappointing to people. They've only known you in that way. And so there's parts of you internally that feel really uncomfortable when maybe you're letting people down. And you have to develop this ability to soothe yourself through that. And those shifts happen, they happen over time. But if you're willing to do the work and do these harder things, your life will change for far better than you could ever imagine. That's what I would tell myself if I could go back in time. Like, your willingness to do this will change your life better than anything you could imagine. Like, if I could give you a little window to look through and see what life could be like, now it's a couple years later for me. But you have to have the courage to take that step forward.
And that's why I think a coach or therapist can be so helpful because it is hard, right? It is hard to do this confronting work. And a lot of us, I had coaches too. I don't know what my own blinders are
Yeah.
sometimes. And so
Yes.
yes, it just really, that's why support is here because feeling emotions that you haven't wanted to feel for 30, 40, 50, 60 years isn't going to be easy. And
Yeah.
like Jessica said, when you're saying no and not people pleasing, guilt's going to probably come up or shame or sad anger, all these things. And if you don't know how to feel it, if you don't know how to process it,
Yeah.
stays in the body and then you're not moving forward. So, so true. I love that. And so finally, I want to give you a chance to share your exciting news, tell
Mm,
everyone about your new business, what you're most
yeah.
excited about, and how actually, too, maybe a little question could
Sure.
be too of how the work we've done together has really shaped you moving forward. But tell us all the good stuff, Jessica.
Yeah, thank you, Jeannie. It's always so fun to be in conversation with you again. And when I think back to to when I first started working with you and where I am now and you are so relational, you care so deeply about the work that you're doing. And so, we've stayed connected and you've continued to follow even as I launched my own business and you're checking in. And we even had shifted toward the end of we're still in coaching. And now we're focusing a little bit more on the business aspects of what I'm moving through. But my offering is called the Mind Body Kitchen. And it's really where I have brought together really nervous system healing work and nutrition. So I'm really merging, I've been a dietitian for 20 years, really in integrative medicine space for a long time. And so now I'm really merging what I would call mind body medicine because it's a very evidence based field. All this work we're talking about is neuroscience. It continues to grow and evolve, but I'm merging mind body medicine with kind of nutrition science. And, I have so much compassion for what people have been through when it comes to food. I think for so many of us, it has really felt like a minefield in terms of conflicting information, restrictive diets, trying so hard to get it right in order to heal, and often really walking away feeling even more conflicted and really disconnected with nourishment and how we nourish ourselves through food and nutrition. And so, because of that, I think many of us have turned away from the idea that nourishment really matters. And even in this space, I have heard on pretty big platforms people say, well, it really doesn't matter what you eat. I understand it's coming from this place of people having tried really restrictive diets and what do I need to remove? But the truth is, and what we know to be true, is that the brain and the nervous system are biological. They're built from nutrients. Nutrients are the raw materials that allow neuroplasticity to even happen. And so when we pair that with living through chronic stress and trauma and illness, our nutrient needs are even higher because that uses up those same nutrients that our body uses for repair and neuroplasticity. They get used up even more when we're living through these kind of chronic stress states. So, the way I see it is that nourishment really isn't about willpower or restriction. It's really about building capacity. And that really is what my work is about. It's about giving your brain and the body resources they need so you actually can do the deeper healing work. And so a big part of what I do is reframing that relationship with food and, nutrition away from the fear
Yeah.
and moving away from the rules and back toward
Mm.
something that feels really supportive and even joyful. Like my biggest calling is to help individuals re-engage with the joy of eating because historically meals and mealtime was very grounding, right? They were connected. There was a rhythm. There was even beauty to it in nourishing ourselves, and we've really lost that. So, a lot of times when I'm first working with someone, um, it's really less about kind of what you're eating and it's about like how you're eating. And that really always like catches people off guard because, a lot of times, I mean, we know this. We're eating standing up in the kitchen, we're eating in our car, we're shoveling things down at our computer, and that has a big impact on how food lands in our body. And so, yeah, it's been really fun to work with individuals from this standpoint. And so much of my work initially is, what is the relationship that you have with whatever you're experiencing in your body? And that's one of the first questions I ask because most people coming to me are pretty highly symptomatic in some way, shape, or form. And one of the first questions I'll ask is, well, what is your relation? Like, what are your thoughts about this? And that's a pretty highly emotional question for most people. They've never been asked that, and they've never been given permission to relate to what they're experiencing in their body any differently, right? We really feel like we need to conquer our body. And so a lot of my work is bringing a softness and reframing that work alongside building capacity. Really, all this work is neuroplasticity, right? That's
All
what
mind body, right? The
all
relationship
mind body.
with food,
It's
and
one system. Yeah.
it's all like the thoughts about food, and then you're eating, and the eating's real grounding. It's all connected, which is why this is such a
Yeah.
beautiful offering.
Yeah, and I believe this, I would live this, is that, all of this work is going to happen more easily in a well-nourished body. We really have to support, I kind of see two camps a lot. It's like the whole mind body space, it's only mind body, or it's like only the physical inputs. And really, we need to merge both because that's when real deeper healing is going to happen, right? And that happens, I think, over time with this work anyway, because we start to nourish ourselves more, we love ourselves. And so it's been really fun to bring that to the work that I'm doing. I love it.
Yeah. And we get to be super intentional about creating
Yeah.
because, like I said, we're both entrepreneurs who came from burnout. I had chronic
Yeah.
fatigue. And
Oh my gosh.
how do you build a business
Great.
that's financially where you need it to be or want it to be and supports you? And I'm a big introvert, empath, highly sensitive, Jessica. So it's like my needs
Yeah.
are different than an extrovert that can you have calls all day and no breaks maybe. And
Yeah. It's been
it's
really
really,
helpful
yeah,
in reframing even the thought of having your own business. And, we assume it's going to be one way. And you're like, why are you assuming that? Like, that's not necessarily true. Why are you assuming that's happening before it's even happened? And you have a lot more agency around how you want to frame your business and how you want to work and what
yeah,
does being successful look like, right? And so, yeah, it's been really fun to transition into more business coaching with you too.
yeah. And I'm excited for you. So where can people find you online?
Yeah. Well, you can find me online at themindbodykitchen.com or on Instagram. My Instagram handle is the dot mindbodykitchen.
Amazing,
So,
amazing. And you have such beautiful posts and
yeah.
information and resources for people. So yeah, maybe we'll do like a part two, Jessica, and talk about business and mindset and how
That would be fun.
that would be really fun because really,
Yeah.
truly mind body work. The reason this all works together is because TMS, coach, it's all universal, right? It's all these universal principles we're using in life, in business and families, our relationship with money. It's all like it's universal, right? It's not, oh, TMS is over here. It's just
No.
it's all universal. It all relates. So how you do one
Yeah.
thing is how you do everything. So if we can get you to trust yourself, have this mind-body connection, be powerful, and have agency again in your physical health and mental health, then it's like, baby girl, you're unstoppable. And my clients who are doing the big things right now, of course we have fear and we
Yeah.
feel the fear and do it anyway. So I'm just really
Yeah.
excited for you. And
Yeah,
you've done it all.
there were definitely times early when I launched to my business where I mean, you physically feel like you're going to throw up. Like these are real things, right? And they're big. And then once you get over kind of the precipice, you're like, oh, this actually wasn't that big of a deal. It's not that hard, but taking those steps can feel really hard. And I think that's where coaching is just can be just so deeply nourishing and supportive in this process because you're like, you got this. I see
Yeah.
you. Like you're the hope rope. Like, yes, maybe you can't see it for yourself right now. I can see it for you. So
Yes,
let's do this together.
yes, that's exactly how I feel. I can see and I can bring out in you, or I can help you see. Yeah, it's such a
Yeah.
great collaboration. Well, I just want to acknowledge, Jessica, like all your
Mhm.
success and all the wins. I just want to give you a big hug, and I'm so
Oh,
grateful that you are here
so
sharing your incredible story. I don't know if it was like super clear to everyone, but on the other side of this, with your business thriving, but you're
yeah,
thriving. Just tell us
yeah,
in like a few sentences just
yeah.
to make sure
Oh my
people get
gosh.
like, are you living in pain?
No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
no,
shout that out.
there's a period where you go through where you kind of waken up to life. You're, I had been asleep at the wheel for so long. Honestly, I look back sometimes even at my kids are 9 and 12 now, where I feel like, gosh, was I even present? Even though I was when they were younger. And so now life has become so rich and because I am so present, right? And in some ways, sometimes that can almost feel overwhelming, less so the more I get out with it. But yeah, of course, I feel things in my body all the time. Life is lifey,
Yeah,
but nothing sticks, right? I just move through and I move with whatever comes up. And yeah, like life, like I said earlier, life is lifey, but it's also greater than I could have ever imagined it could be for myself. And for that, I'm so grateful. And I hated when I heard people say this. I really did. But it's been one of the greatest gifts with what I journeyed through. And I journeyed through a lot. I mean, you can listen to my story on another platform. It was deep, it was dark times. And now I'm through that. And I'm so grateful for the experience. That
yeah.
might be the first time I've said that actually. I think maybe I'm just getting to that point.
Yeah, and I've been sharing more about that on Instagram too. Great timing because I've been talking about
Yeah,
that more because
yeah.
it's difficult to hear, but
It is difficult to
if we
hear.
plant the seed and we plant the seed and maybe you don't believe it, but you're just open
Yeah.
to the idea, that's
Yeah.
amazing. So that is just your first step. Just be open to the idea that
Yeah.
that could be for you. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not, you don't have to hold on to it. Even if you're 2 years out and you're like, no, I don't feel that way. That's okay too. You know? So,
Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. I know, like you said, recovery stories were a huge part of your journey. And so I'm just so grateful that we get to share this hope and inspiration. And it's been a joy to work with you and sending you
thank
all the
you,
love.
Jeannie.
You're
Thank you so
welcome.
much, Jeannie.
Oh, love it. Bye, everyone.
Bye.